Live, and if someone can just double check on the other end that it's functioning, but it says setting up right now. On the other end that it's functioning, but it says
I can confirm that the stream is live.
Okay, let's call the March 26th meeting of the Node.js public board meeting into session.
All right. Thank you, Todd. All right. All right. Please take note of the antitrust compliance notice. It's furnished as part of the board package. And we'll move to the agenda. So the first thing on this month's agenda is the approval of the board meeting minutes from March 5th, which was the regularly scheduled February board meeting. We just moved it up or back a few days so some of us could meet in person, and that was attached as Exhibit B. Could I get a motion to approve those minutes?
Yeah, motion to approve. This is John.
All right. And a second?
It's a second. It's Miles.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye.
And any abstainers?
I'm abstaining, Brian.
Okay. All right. All right. I believe that motion is passed. All right. So thank you. The next thing on this month's agenda was the mentorship program, and Miles was, we had slated this. I know that you were traveling last week, Miles, but you were trying to catch up with the folks who are having those meetings. Do you have an update for us?
Yes. So let me just pop up my notes. So the mentorship program is getting up and running. There's an initial survey that has been sent out to people, and signups for both mentee and mentors are available. If you go to github.com/nodejs/mentorship, there's links there to sign up as both a mentee and a mentor. The mentees being individuals from either the collaboratorship or the community who want mentors, and the mentors being individuals who have experience within the project itself. So there's an issue open, issue number 14, which has a really good description of the expected process, and the main README also has a lot of good information. So before I dig in, I'll just give a couple definitions. So a leader is a member of the mentorship program responsible for arranging and participating in the kickoff meeting between a matched pair. A match is a selected pair of mentor and mentee. Participants is a mentor or mentee in a mentorship program. The mentor is a Node.js mentor, and a mentee is a Node.js mentee. So the process goes where a mentor and mentee are matched. And once they're matched, there's a three-way kickoff meeting to introduce, set goals, and expectations. And that's between a leader from the mentorship team, the mentee, and the mentor. This process and how those meetings work is expected to iterate over time. And at the moment, it appears to be somewhat loosely defined. There's a channel for having the meetings and for ongoing communication. And right now, Node Slackers, which is a Slack that is shared between various people within the Node.js community, has been decided to be the core place for communication. This may change. They may move off of Slack if it doesn't scale. This is expected to iterate with the program as things happen. Now, the duration of the mentorship program itself is expected to be about 6 months for a mentee and mentor pairing. Again, like everything else in the program, this is, can change as things are found, but 6 months is expected to be a good amount of time for someone to get ramped up and get supported. There's expectations for the participants, both the mentors and the mentees, which can be found in the main README on the Node.js/mentorship repo. But some highlights that are worth mentioning is that the mentee and mentor are expected to meet for at least an hour every month. The mentor is expected to help the mentee with ongoing support for pull requests and issues that they open. The program is expected to be mentee-driven and mentor guided. So to be more explicit, the mentee is expected to identify career goals throughout this project, which may be 1 to 3 goals. And the mentor is meant to support in those goals and help people move forward. There's a plan for both language diversity and time zone support. So the program asks for preferred time zones and languages and attempts to coordinate people within similar time zones and languages to make sure that people are able to support and not have to move outside of regular business hours. Right now, one things that has been flagged is that there's currently no process for changing a matched pair. So once a mentor and a mentee have been matched, they're expected to see through the 6 months. And that's something that could change over time, but currently is in stone. So as I had mentioned earlier, the signups are open. There's kind of a beta pilot that's going to go on with a certain number of matched pairs. And there'll be an ongoing update as we see how the process plays out and what parts need to change based on what's successful and what isn't.
All right. Thanks, Miles. Does anyone have any questions on the board about that? All right. And how many is there a goal for how many mentors and mentees that there will be, did you say?
That is not something that I am currently aware of, but I can dig in and try to find those details.
Okay. Great. No, I was just curious. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda is the board has tasked a subcommittee to talk about the leadership of the board and how we incorporate feedback from the community beyond the members of the foundation and the corporate members. And there have been an ongoing number of meetings that Sarah and Tracy Hines have been organizing. They've been doing a great job. So Sarah has agreed to give us an update on where we're at with that process and some of the progress that we've made.
Thanks much, Mark. So the idea behind the board leadership subcommittee was to bring together a group of board members with leaders from the Node.js project. So leaders from the TSC, the ComCom, individual membership board designates, and discuss the different roles and expectations that the different bodies have. So that would be expectations of the board, expectations of the project, expectations of the executive director and the foundation, how the foundation and the project work together, what the independent membership looks like, whether or not that program was successful, what were its original goals and intents, etc. So we brought this group together because we noticed a pattern of challenging communications between the different participants in these different roles and different groups. And so working through these different expectations, we are coming to a list or documenting the expectations and the roles for the different groups, making sure that where we have had differences, we are more aligned. And then the first big initiative that we're working on is the future of the individual membership and trying to determine what success would look like for that program, how to add more value for any individual members who may wish to participate in it if it continues, and defining some sort of roadmap strategy and metrics against it as well. That also requires a bunch of tactical support because the program didn't have a lot of tactical support initially. We also are discussing the individual member board seats, and we have reached a consensus that we believe the initial intent of having a non-corporate sponsored person who contributes and has meaningful engagement with the Node.js project should have the opportunity for a board position through some selection method. So now we go looking at what that selection method might look like, come up with a few proposals, work through that, and and more broadly, how to structure the individual membership program, and if those two are related in any way. And then we bring that back to the board sometime in May, or actually probably late April.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Sarah. All right. Next item we have on this month's meeting is JS Interactive. It is going to be this fall, and it's going to be in Vancouver, where Node.js or Node Interactive was held last fall at the Vancouver Convention Center. This is mainly a reminder that the CFP is open and will remain open until April 20th. We will have a Node.js board panel. One of the items that Sarah mentioned was that our community would like to know more about what's going on at the board level, and we want to have those conversations. So we will have a board panel at Node Interactive, and for those board members that want to participate, I will plan on moderating, but please let me know if you can be there. And I think it will be a good opportunity to meet our board members and ask those questions that you have of us. I also wanted to congratulate Joint as our first official sponsor of JS Interactive. And if you have any interest in your organization of sponsoring, the sponsorship link is on the JS Interactive website. We have invited all the past sponsors, and we've gotten some verbal commitments from our major sponsors already, so things are on track there. Any questions on JS Interactive? All right. And the final thing on our agenda for this month is an update from Sean Pressner, who is managing the day-to-day activities of the marketing committee. The marketing committee is made up of delegates from our membership who attend I believe every other week we have our marketing meeting and talk about how we market and promote Node.js. But we also want to make sure that the broader community is aware of what those efforts are. And so Sean is going to give us an update. Are you there, Sean?
Hey, everyone. Yep. Hey, Mark. Right. Do you have any slides, or would you like me to share?
Go ahead, and you can drive your own slides. I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. All right. Hey, everyone. So as Mark mentioned, Zibby and I are on, and we'll share some brief updates related to marketing, PR, and comms. A lot specific over the last month, different happenings. So looking at the next quarter, different third-party events that Node.js will be present and involved at are Node Summit coming up in San Francisco at the end of July. And the events team are solidifying our participation, what exactly that looks like, booth speaking engagement over this next week. What we do know more of is that upcoming in Copenhagen, the KubeCon Cloud Native Con will be happening May 2nd through 4th. And for that, we have silver sponsorship, which will be a 6x6 foot booth. They're expecting around 3,500 people there. That audience, primarily interested in application development that's containerized and microservices oriented. And then we know there'll be a lot more serverless talk and that being prominent. So we expect that message to fit well with people who are interested in Node. And so looking forward to that. But also coming up in the fall, we're we're really excited for JS Interactive. Mark spoke briefly about this, but a couple of milestones I'd like to raise that you may be interested in are on April 20th, the deadline to submit your CFPs close. So you have about 3 weeks to submit any sessions, any talks that you feel you would also be relevant. Please do so. And then coming up, we currently have our early bird registration price available through July 21st, and then that price will double. So now's a good time to start registering and start looking at travel and planning your arrangements, asking your boss for approval and whatnot. So that, and then for different corporations that are looking to get involved further, there are sponsorships available. So Mark mentioned Joyent being the first official. There's a few more submissions we have that are processing, but we'd love to have you exhibit and get involved further. So couple of links here, and feel free to check out the prospectus on our website. We're expecting it to be a great event, doubling in size from last year. So we're hoping for 1,500 guests this year, and we have a full promotional plan in place to help drive people and raise awareness of this coming up in Vancouver. Lastly, we're looking for a really good keynote candidate. And so this person kind of being a balance of technical, having some technical chops, but also a decision maker and kind of somewhat a good example, a good company example of business transformation and digital transformation. We have the example here of Reed Hastings of Netflix. So if there are any suggestions from the governing board, if anyone comes to mind right now, feel free to raise it. Otherwise, please shoot me an email with any ideas. We'd love to hear. Cool. All right. With that, I'll hand it over to Zibby.
Hi, everyone. Just kind of some quick updates from me. So at the beginning of the year, we really talked about what our PR objectives would be, and one of them is analyst relations. So industry analysts like Gartner, Forrester, IDC, Redmonk. As we see Node.js becoming more popular in the enterprise space, analysts are more interested in talking to us to better understand growth areas for us, emerging Node.js use cases, case studies. So we've held several meetings with top analysts that cover the application development space to share things like growth trends in 2017, our general Node.js Foundation initiatives, and then just kind of popular use cases that have sprung from having conversations with our marketing group as well as our community. So that's a big update for us this quarter. And then Node.js Collection, I think most people probably know of this, but Node.js Collection is a publication that we have on Medium. It's a collaborative effort between the Node.js Foundation as well as a few community members. It shares articles around best practices when using Node.js, events that are happening around Node.js. This January and February, we focused really, really heavily on working group initiatives as a part of the Node.js project. Given it's the beginning of the year, a lot of our working groups have set goals from themselves and different initiatives in 2018. Oftentimes that resides on GitHub, but in order to try to attract more contributors, we wanted to put it on Node.js Collection to make sure people were aware of what's happening, and if people want to participate, they know how to do so and also know what might interest them in the working groups. Our Node.js Collection has about almost 11,000 followers, and it gets a lot of views per day, about 2,400. Last year, we were averaging about 2,000, so we're seeing it slowly grow year over year, but our big focus is really providing good content for Node.js users. That is, again, kind of a collaboration of the Node.js Foundation and our community. Another thing that we're kicking off is just a messaging refresh. When we started the Node.js Foundation a few years ago, we did a messaging refresh, but we really haven't refreshed it since then. So we're working with a few members, community members, and board members to kind of determine what our messaging framework would be. And also this is largely based on our analyst conversations on areas that they're feeling like Node.js might be missing in or needs more content around. So for our next marketing meeting, we're going to share kind of a framework and start building that out in terms of kind of the finalization of that. Some of that will go on the Node.js Foundation website. We'll be sharing some of that with the Node.js website working group that are working on kind of updating the website. So again, it's in its early stages now, but we're just trying to kind of do a nice refresh to make sure that we're speaking of Node.js and the Node.js Foundation in general in a clear and concise manner. Those are the major updates from me. Does anyone have questions on the board around any of those 3 updates? Or if not, we can move on to the next slide. Okay.
All right, thank you, Zibby. And then lastly, again, with wanting to produce more technical content, different than use cases, we have these field guides that are starting. And so these will be vendor agnostic. There'll be technical use case papers, more so focusing on patterns and common ways that, cross-company people are using Node.js. So we've kicked this off with an API field guide. And so we've had the kickoff call. We have a bunch of great experts at the table, and now we're scheduling the follow-up interviews with each to start capturing the data. Then in the queue of field guides, we have some different topics that came out of a recent survey we did with the marketing committee. So there's single page apps, there's mobile backends, IoT, and lastly, front-end optimization. So these are all different field guides that we'll be putting out this year. Next, we have the application showcase. I hope that a lot of you have already seen this, but it's a great way to capture different people either scratching their itch with Node.js or companies and their solutions that are developed with Node.js and everything in between. So over the last month, we've had 15 new apps that we've published, and we've got some good viewership on it. This puts us now up to over 90 apps, and this is what the page looks like. If you haven't been yet, you can check it out under our resources, application showcase. And then from each, you can click in and get a little description on the project or product, and can click through to visit the code or their page and learn more. Additionally, you can filter, based on application type, different ancillary technologies that were also used in development, and then filtering by the status, so production, development, and a combination of all 3. Then lastly, we have been gathering and producing in an interactive HTML manner our survey site data and results, and we're targeting releasing this next month, and we'll also be pushing it, Zibby will, through the analyst channels. Any questions on these 3? Wonderful. All right, back to you, Mark.
All right, thanks, Sean. Thank you, Zibby. That is what we had for the public agenda for this month. I believe that's the final item. Do we have any questions from those watching on YouTube? I think I'm watching the chat right now, and I'll have to give it probably about 10 seconds for the lag to hit YouTube, I see Tierney says no. Are there any questions or any discussion topics from any of the board members that we needed to address? All right. Okay. Well, then I think that ends the agenda. Would you like to?
Yeah, let's adjourn. So thank you all for coming and attending the Node.js public session. The meeting is adjourned.
All right. Thank you, Todd. Thanks, everyone, for viewing, and have a good day.
Thanks, Mark.